Hey, hello, and welcome to this episode of Learn Everyday English, your roadway to English proficiency. Hey, glad to have you with me today. I'm back in my comfy recliner chair in my usual position, bringing you a new video this week. As you can see, I'm going to talk about my Ancestry DNA test results and to find out, hey, am I black? Am I white? Hey, what really am I? Got me to thinking. Have you done an Ancestry DNA type test before? Hey, what were your results? Did you agree with it? Was it surprising to you, or is it kind of what you thought it was going to be? Hey, let me know in the comments. But before I get into my results, I want to let you know there's 3 things you can do for me. Hey, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and 3, tell your friends about it, so that they can benefit from these videos too. You know it, just like you. All right, and remember I have my How to Talk Texan ebook that's available on Amazon. If you want to learn how we folks talk down here in Texas, you can get a copy of that, the ebook. There are 2 links down below. And also, if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, you can do that. There's a link below to support this channel. Help me to continue bringing you videos like this so you can improve your English. I'm getting a lot of good comments, like I say every week. Subscribers continue to grow, so channel is doing good. All right, I'm going to jump into today's episode, but before I give you the Ancestry DNA test results, I want to give you a little background information. So quite a few years ago, actually, I submitted the Ancestry DNA test, and I got my results back. But I don't know, every so often, it could be, we don't know how long, 2 years, 5 years, it's a general term, but maybe every 5 years or so, I get an update from Ancestry DNA. I guess they've gathered more information, maybe fine-tuned their research, and I get an update on my Ancestry DNA results showing me percentage of where, say, each of my ancestors came from. And so I got an update, wanted to share that with you. And maybe some of you are thinking, hey, yeah, I'd like to know that because, you know, just my skin color, I could say, my skin complexion, we say in English, my complexion is like how my skin looks. Maybe it's a little bit confusing for people because some people don't really know what I am, I could say, what I am. So maybe what country I come from, what's my heritage, what's my ethnic background, what's my race. So a lot of people don't know. So you'll find out. Just stay with me till the end. But I'm going to give you a little some more preliminary information. So I got my results back, and it got me to thinking. That means it started me thinking about my racial background and ethnicity. Have you heard those 2 words? Racial background or race? What is your race and what is your ethnicity? And what exactly do these terms mean? Because a lot of times race and ethnicity are used interchangeably. I think a lot of people don't really know what the difference is, and I wasn't really quite sure myself, so I went and did a ChatGPT, asked him to define what race is. And here's what race is. Race, the definition of race it means that it refers to physical characteristics that are often used to group people, such as skin color, hair texture. Texture is kind of how your hair feels and looks, facial features, and other biological traits. Examples, you could be determined to be African, white, Asian, indigenous, etc. And the basis of race, it's largely a social construct with roots in historical classifications, but it often emphasizes perceived biological differences, kind of how people look, the differences in how people look. And ethnicity, here's a definition of ethnicity, relates to cultural identity, and shared tradition. So it's not really based on physical characteristics. Such things as, like I said, shared traditions, language, religion, ancestry, or history within a group. Examples of ethnicity could be Hispanic or Latino, Jewish, Irish, Somali, etc. And it focuses on cultural factors rather than physical traits. So I'm not sure maybe how exact these definitions are, but that's what I came up with using ChatGPT. So the Ancestry DNA test got me to thinking as well as to who or what exactly I am in terms of race and ethnicity. How do I, or should I, fill out these forms we have to fill out? And they ask you about race and ethnicity. What should I be putting on these forms? How should I fill those forms out? Have you had the same questions yourself? What really is the right way to be filling out these forms? I know some people have told me that. I've always considered myself black or African American. Always did, and my parents did as well. So, and I have to say, and proud to say, I still do consider myself black or African American. My dad is light-skinned, or was light-skinned. He passed away when he was 70 years old from lung cancer because he was a chronic smoker. It's not something I'm proud of, but it's the truth. He smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. He died at the age of 70. But he was light-skinned, or we could say he had a light complexion. Here's a picture of him. And here's a picture of my aunt, my dad's sister. And as well as here's a picture of my dad's mother, my grandmother. So you can see that side of the family was very light-skinned. But here's also a picture of my mom. And as you can see, she was darker skinned or had darker complexion. So my skin color is kind of a mixture of my mom and my dad. And it's interesting that most black people here in the United States, they can tell right away, or they know right away, that I am black or African American. But other people, especially other people from other countries, a lot of times they really don't know, say, what I am or what is my ethnic background or where my ancestors come from. They may think I'm Hispanic, maybe sometimes Middle Eastern. So it's hard for some people to say. And here's a picture of my twin brother when we were a lot younger. And here's a picture of my mom's family sitting on the porch in the country. So my mom grew up on a farm in Louisiana. They had to work out in the farm and raise animals and, pick crops and that type of thing. So it's kind of a hard life. My dad grew up more in the city, not a big city, but a small city in Louisiana. But he didn't have, his life wasn't very comfortable either, but he didn't grow up on a farm. But my parents are from, we say, southwest Louisiana. Specifically, my dad grew up in Opelousas, and my mom grew up in a city called Plaisance. It's a French name, and it wasn't really much of a city. Only thing there was a school and a church, and that was it, and a blinking red or yellow light. But interesting to say, my parents and my grandparents on my mother and father's side, they all were able to speak Creole French. It's a little different than the French they speak in France. But sad to say, I never learned to speak it because they only spoke it when they didn't want me to know what they were talking about. So I didn't learn to speak Creole French. But Louisiana is an interesting place, and that kind of has to do with my makeup, my racial makeup. We say back in the colonial times, in the beginning, Louisiana had a lot of indigenous tribes before the Europeans came to Louisiana to colonize. There were various indigenous peoples, including the Choctaw, Natchez Indians, Caddo Indians, and the Homa tribes, Indian tribes. And they lived in complex societies with unique languages, cultures, and spiritual practices. Then later on, they had colonization. The French and the Spanish came, and we call this a colonial era in the 1700s. First, there was the French influence, and that's kind of where the French language flourished in Louisiana. And France established Louisiana as a colony in 1682, bringing enslaved Africans to work on plantations. So in Louisiana today, you can still take tours of plantations and plantation homes. And the French colony began as a melting pot of French settlers, indigenous or Indian peoples, and enslaved Africans. So as you can see, back under the French rule, French times, there was a big mixture of people there. The French, more white, light skin, native and Indian populations, and enslaved Africans. So this period also saw the emergence of a free black population. Sometimes we say free men or free people of color. Then after the French was the Spanish era from 1763 to 1800, and Spain took control and continued the use of enslaved labor, but also allowed for more legal protections for free people of color. And this led to a growth of distinct classes of people, or they call them Creoles of color. So Creole is a person that is of mixed blood, mixed ethnicity, maybe white mixing with black, or white and indigenous, or black and indigenous, or all three mixing together. But they were actually able to often hold property and were educated. So this kind of is very interesting in Louisiana. Then in 1803, something called the Louisiana Purchase occurred, and American expansion. And here, the racial ethnic dynamics began to shift, and America began to kind of become, we say, a binary, mainly of black versus white. The Indian or indigenous population started to decline, and there was more just mixture of black and white people in Louisiana. Well, here's a breakdown of the Louisiana population by race or ethnic grouping. As you can see, white or non-Hispanic is about almost 58%. Black or African American is 31%, a little bit more. Hispanic or Latino, about 7%. Asian, about 2%. American Indian or Alaska Native is almost 1%, and two or more races combined is almost 6%. So that's the racial makeup of Louisiana. Now here's the racial makeup of the United States. White or non-Hispanic is about almost 59%. Hispanic Latino is a little over 19%. Black or African American, a little over 12%. Asian, about 6%. American Indian, Alaska Native, 1%. Native Hawaiian, other Pacific Islanders, 0.2%. And two or more races, 12.5%. And in the United States, there are a lot of languages that are spoken. And the diversity encompasses languages. Oops, there's a mosquito on my hand. From around the globe. So, the United States is known as and called a melting pot, because so many people from different countries have come and made the United States their home. And the United States is, we say, linguistically diverse, or there's a lot of languages. Linguistics has to do with languages, with over 350 languages spoken across the country. That's a lot of different languages. According to the U.S. Census Bureau in 2019 data, here's the distribution of languages spoken at home. And English, by far is the most prevalent, with 78% of the population speaking English. 13.4% speak Spanish, 1.1% Chinese, 0.5% Tagalog, which is from the Philippines, 0.5% Vietnamese, 0.4% Arabic, 0.4% French, 0.3% German, 0.3% Russian, and 0.3% Italian. So did some of these figures surprise you? Well, not to belabor the point anymore, I'm going to show you what my Ancestry DNA results look like. So here's a graphic JPEG that was an update of my DNA story, as you can see. This is shows you what my ancestry is made of. I wonder if it surprised me a little bit, but I wasn't totally surprised. I knew, being from Louisiana, I figured I had a lot of French ancestry, but I also had a lot of ancestry from Africa, which maybe didn't surprise me, because there are a lot of slaves brought over from Africa and mixed together with the population, the people in Louisiana. So as you can see, France was the largest at 26%. Mali, which is a country in Africa, was 20%. Ireland and Scotland is 18%. Benin and Togo, countries in Africa, 15%. Senegal, another country in Africa, 6%. Cameroon, Congo, Southern Bantu people, 4%. That's also from Africa. Native American is 4%. Eastern African, 2%. Portugal, 1%. Ivory Coast, Ghana, which is also Africa, 1%. Sweden, 1%. Italy, 1%. Middle East, 1%. And Philippines, less than 1%. So that's my racial makeup, racial background, my ethnicity. So did this kind of surprise you? Surprise anybody? What did you think? So I kind of totaled up the largest percentage. If I add up France, Ireland, and Scotland, I get 44% of my ancestry comes from those three countries, which normally people think of as, people, white skin or lighter skinned people coming from those countries. So 44% of my ancestry comes from there. But I also added up all of the African nations: Mali, Benin, Togo, Senegal, Cameroon, Congo, East Africa, Ivory Coast, and Ghana. And that totals up to 48%. 48%. So that's a little bit more than the 44%. So a little bit more of my ancestry is from African countries than the white countries. And also Native American is 4%. So if I add up the France, Ireland, Scotland, and the African countries, that totals up to 92%. So most of my ancestry comes from those two areas or regions. If I add in the Native American, that brings the total up to 96% is my makeup. So I'm not really that surprised about that, and kind of what I kind of somewhat suspected. So it's not a shocker. It's not a shocker. So there you have it. That's my ancestry, my makeup of the ancestors that's in my lineage. And what do you think? Were you surprised about that? So, the title of the video, I said, hey, am I black? Am I white? Well, actually, it looks like I'm kind of just a mixture of both, which a lot of people are from Louisiana. But I say, I've always considered myself black or African American, and will continue to do so, and don't have a problem with that. And maybe, in this country, when civil rights were going on, and even before that, before slaves got their freedom, if a person just had a small amount of black blood in them, they were considered black, no matter how small that was. And that kind of idea or tendency has carried on throughout the years. So, but I guess if I wanted to, I could say, hey, on an application, I could put white, and who would be the wiser to want to challenge that. But like I said, I don't have any problem referring to myself. Proud to say I'm black or African American. So there you have it. Hey, let me know what you think in the comments. And again, let me know if you've taken one of these ancestry DNA type tests. Did you think or find that they were accurate? Were you pleased with the results? Hey, let me know in the comments. All right, well, that'll do it for today. Thanks for watching this episode of Learn Everyday English. And like, subscribe, and tell your friends about the channel so that they can watch these videos and help improve their English too, just like you. All right, have a good day, rest of the week, wherever you are in this big blue marble we call the world. And we'll talk to you later from Learn Everyday English. Bye-bye.